Welcome to Dungeon Academics. I am Thomas and I will be your instructor. This is part of a series of videos looking at the mathematics of games and how it shapes both design philosophy and the way we play them. Today I will take on the role of the Fighting Stylist. We will be doing a quantitative analysis of some of Dungeons & Dragons' fighting styles, doing some fun algebra, a little scripting, and looking at how games can encourage optimization through specialization or generalization. You can follow along with the maths by pausing the video as we go. A full transcript and a copy of the graphs and tables will be available. This video features art that was generated using AI. I lack both the artistic skills to make my own images and the budget to pay someone to create images for me. I also feel strongly about using other people's work without paying for it, so I will use AI until a better option is available. There are many existing discussions about the use of AI images in games, especially by larger companies, but I hope that due to the scale of my operation, some understandings will be made. I used Hotpot to make these images, though I am not affiliated with them. There is a link to the website in the description. Some of the martial classes in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons have access to fighting styles. These are small mechanical bonuses in combat if you follow a specific martial archetype. Many of these fighting styles offer bonuses that are situationally dependent, only useful when fighting in darkness or whilst obscured, or perhaps when defending an ally. These bonuses are very hard to quantify, so today I will be focusing on those that are more amenable to mathematical analysis. These fighting styles offer a wide range of advantages, and there is perhaps no single best fighting style to recommend overall. But using maths, perhaps we can identify some that are maybe less best. Either way, this is an opportunity to look at some often overlooked features with a mathematical eye and see if we can uncover any hidden insights about the game designer's intentions. In order to make comparisons about dissimilar things, it is useful to have some agreed upon equivalences. I asked the Dungeons & Dragons community in Reddit a couple of questions to see if we can agree on some baseline equivalents. I asked players which was more useful for a generic melee character, +1 to armor class or +1 to hit. With over 2,000 responses, I got a range of interesting answers. About 60% of players considered the two options to be equal or close to equal, though the exact equivalence was the least common option of the 5. About an even number of people considered +1 AC to be clearly better, as did those that thought it was clearly worse. The almost perfect mirror image tells us that individually people may have opinions one way or the other, but the overall consensus is that there is a strong case for +1 armor class and +1 to hit being equally valuable. Mechanically, this makes sense. +1 armor class is effectively a -1 for enemies to hit you, so the comparison is apt. Next, I asked the same community about the relative values of +1 to hit and a damage bump. With close to 1,000 responses, an interesting picture emerged. The most commonly selected answer painted an equivalence between +1 to hit and +2 damage, with higher and lower values being roughly symmetrically spread out. A common response was the comparison with Great Weapon Master. The +10 damage for that feat comes with a -5 to hit penalty, and any hit bonuses would partially offset its costs, making bonuses to hit more valuable. The mechanics of Great Weapon Master itself also suggest that +1 to hit is worth +2 damage. Great Weapon Master asked the players if they would prefer a greater chance to hit or a higher damage yield on a hit, with the exact ratio we have discussed. I discussed the mathematics of Great Weapon Master in more detail in the video The Great Weapon Mystery. From these discussions, we can use a baseline that +1 armor class, +1 to hit, and +2 damage are of equivalent values to players. From the basic fighting styles offered to fighter, we are only focusing on melee characters. This means we will ignore the archery fighting style. Its +2 bonus on attack rolls for ranged weapons makes it, mechanically one of the best fighting styles, and a clear must-pick for characters who want to primarily deal damage with ranged weapons. The protection fighting style is also hard to quantify, so instead we will focus on the defense, dueling, two-weapon fighting, and great weapon fighting choices. In order to make a quantitative comparison, we need to compare the effects for certain martial archetypes. The four kinds of fighter we will consider are a baseline fighter with a martial melee weapon, a sword and board fighter with a weapon and a shield, a dual-wielding weapon user with a weapon in each hand, and a heavy hitter using a heavy martial weapon such as a greatsword. These illustrations are for reference purpose only. They are not here to accurately represent the equipment being used. All our fighters will have 16 in their primary fighting statistic, be it strength or dexterity. We will also assume a base armor class of 16, be it from light, medium or heavy armor. We will also assume that the basic melee weapon used has a D8 for its damage dice. The basic fighter will allow us to compare the martial archetypes we are using. A single-handed weapon and a shield, often called sword and board, is a popular choice for melee characters in games, film and TV. The shield increases the character's armor class to 18, and we have a possibility to increase this further with the defense fighting style for an additional +1 armor class. The other option we will look at, dueling, would add +2 to all damage rolls. As +1 AC and +2 damage are roughly equivalent, this would imply that the two options are equally useful. An important note for this character is they may not have a useful way to utilize their bonus action. An effective character makes as many actions as they can, so unless you have another use for your bonus action from racial abilities or somewhere else, there is the risk of the character somewhat missing out. Let's see if we can further unwrap the maths of AC bonuses. Let's consider the probability space of an attack roll, all 20 options equally likely. If we consider a typical low power enemy with a hit modifier of +3 against our baseline character with an armor class of 16, a roll of 13 or more will hit. This means there are 8 options out of the 20 which will result in a hit. A shield would increase our armor class by 2, meaning that now only 6 options out of the 20 result in a hit. 6 hits compared to 8 is a reduction of 25%. Only 3 out of 4 attacks that would hit still land. We can invert that fraction to compare our damage resistance. We are 4/3 as tough. In this circumstance, an increase of 2 in armor class has made our character a third, or 33%, tougher. On the other hand, if we took the defense fighting style, the increase in AC to 19 means that now only 5 attacks land out of the original 8. Taking 5/8 of the hits means we are 8/5 tougher, an increase of 60%. This sounds like a lot, and it is. Adding 3 to an already good armor class makes an exceptional armor class. An armor class, it turns out, is a bit of a drug for players. We can have another look. Let's compare a hit roll of 16, 17 and 18. With a hit roll of 16, there are 5 rolls that land a hit. Increasing that to 17 results in only 4 hits connecting out of our probability space. This move from 5 to 4 makes our character 5/4 as tough, an increase of 25%. Moving again from 17 to 18 changes the number of hits from 4 to 3. This is a 4/3 increase in toughness, an increase of 33%. Each additional point of armor class is proportionally more valuable, creating a higher and higher return on any investment. Moving from AC 12 to 13 is good, but going from 19 to 20 is phenomenal. Increasing your armor class can be highly addictive, knowing that each step is going to feel even better than the last. We have mathematically proved that with armor class, higher is better, and more higher is more better. There are some limitations though. The largest hit modifier for an officially published monster is +19, and if the DM rolls a 19 on the attack dice, then they score 38 to hit. This makes 39 the maximum useful armor class, as it means a roll of 19 would still miss. There are various ways for a player to get an AC of 39, or even higher, but these builds offer no real defense against monsters in the game. It is also vital to remember that armor class is not the only means of defense for a character, as there are many sources of damage that have no hit roll. A character will need a large pool of hit points, strong save modifiers, and a handful of damage resistances if they want to survive in the game. Moving on, we can look at the dueling fighting style, a basic +2 damage to all melee attacks. For our baseline character with a D8 melee weapon, this increases the expected damage from D8 +3, or 7.5, to 9.5, a 27% increase. If, sometime later, the character was doing a base damage of 3d6 +5, a mean of 15.5, dueling would increase this to 17.5, or a boost of 13%. This means that as your character grows in power, the dueling fighting style offers smaller and smaller proportional returns, whereas the defense fighting style returned better and better bonuses as your armor class increased. Our initial comparison considered dueling and defense to be equally valuable, but the maths clearly shows that as characters advance, defense outstrips dueling. Moving on, we can look at dual-wielding characters. Using a weapon in each hand is often seen as the coolest option, but does the math stand up to the aesthetics? The main advantage for dual wielding is an additional bonus attack every turn, and for characters that may only get one attack, that is an immediate doubling of combat potential. It comes at a cost though. Without a shield, your armor class is limited, in this case sticking to 16. Defense is a solid pick for a fighting style, but +1 AC is not as good when your AC starts lower. And without the 2-weapon fighting style, that valuable bonus attack doesn't get the +3 damage from your strength or dexterity. Dueling cannot be selected as a fighting style, as holding a second weapon rules it out. This leaves 2-weapon fighting. Let's compare this mathematically with our baseline fighter. The restriction forcing us to use light weapons drops the damage per attack from D8 +3 to D6 +3. So our expected damage per attack is only 6.5 compared to the baseline of 7.5. But that is offset by the additional attack, returning 13 total damage, an increase of 73%. That sounds great, but how does it compare to a sword and board fighter with the dueling fighting style, which we already consider the lesser pick? Our sword and board fighter has a damage per attack of D8 +3 +2, or 9.5, 3.5 less than our dual wielder. The sword and board fighter instead gets +2 to their armor class, which is comparable in value to the +3.5 damage. But how does this compare once characters get an extra attack? With a second attack per action, the dual wielder now gets 3 attacks with 6.5 damage each, netting a total of 19.5 damage. The sword and board fighter's 2 attacks total to 19 damage, only half a point of damage less, but still with 2 extra points of armor class. With a third attack, any extra damage expected from using 2 weapons is completely gone. Dual wielding weapons also ties up your bonus action. If you have no other use for it, then this isn't an issue, but if your class, race, or items give you a useful bonus action, using it will force you to miss out on some of your damage. Having too many useful bonus actions is almost as frustrating as not having any. A second issue is that you need to upgrade 2 weapons to maximize your damage. Finding an amazing magic weapon feels great, but then using the rusty dagger your character has had since session 0 to make your bonus action attack feels somewhat underwhelming. I am sure that many viewers will leap to the defense of dual wielding by pointing out that the dual wielder feat is rather good. Is it? It offers 2 benefits. Firstly, it removes the requirement for using light weapons. This allows you to use a D8 weapon for all your attacks, netting +1 damage per attack. Secondly, it gives +1 to armor class, which we have already stated is always good. But there is a steep price to pay. This feat costs you an ability score increase, which could be used to increase your fighting statistic by 2 points. This would net a +1 to damage and a +1 to hit, worth the same as +1 damage and +1 AC. The ability increase would also improve skill rolls and a saving throw, and if it is in dexterity, potentially improve armor class anyway. This makes an ability score increase as good or better than the dual wielder feat in every way. In addition, if you only need +1 to an ability to get to the next level of ability score modifier, the second point could be used elsewhere, or a half feat be purchased, giving other benefits as well. I feel that dual wielding is mathematically a trap, unless you are playing a character that is unlikely to get extra attack somehow. It is a shame that a martial archetype that is undoubtedly one of the most popular and coolest is not backed up by equally good game mechanics. Now we can look at our final archetype, the great weapon user. Using the largest weapon possible to deal as much damage as possible is a simple but effective play, but it limits users to only the defense and great weapon fighting styles. Without a shield, the defense style is less valuable, so I will focus on the great weapon fighting option. This allows you to re-roll all damage rolls of 1 or 2 when you attack. This scales nicely as you get more powerful and find more ways to add damage rolls to your attack, be it magical weapons, spells using hex, or smites. These all benefit from the reroll. Mathematically speaking, how does great weapon fighting change the expected score on a dice? Let's make a table for a d6, showing the first roll and a potential second roll if the first roll is a 1 or 2. If the first roll is 3 or higher, its value stands. But if the first roll is a 1 or 2, then it is replaced by a second random roll. These 36 results add up to a total of 150, and thus a mean value of around 4.17, which is greater than the regular mean of 3.5. An alternative is to think that the value of 1 and 2 are just replaced with the normal mean value of the dice. To study this further, we need to look at the mathematics of arithmetic sequences and series. An arithmetic sequence is a set of numbers where the same value is added or subtracted between terms. For example, the numbers on a dice form an arithmetic sequence: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. An arithmetic sequence is defined using the first term, called U1, in this case 1. The common difference between terms, called D, also 1, and the number of terms, n, in this case 6. To get to the second term, you add the common difference to the first term. To get to the third term, you add the common difference to the second term, or double the common difference to the first term. If you want to find the 10th term, you add 9 times the common difference to the first term. The nth term can always be found by adding 1 minus the term number times the common difference to the first term, or un is u1 plus n minus 1 times d. If you want to add together the terms of an arithmetic sequence, you get an arithmetic series. The formula for this sum is shown. The sum is equal to the first term plus the last term all over 2 times the number of terms. This is the same as the average term times the number of terms. As the last term of the sequence can be found using the rule for the nth term, we can rewrite the formula for the sum of n terms as double the first term plus the common difference times 1 less than the number of terms, all over 2, then times by the number of terms. We can use the values from our dice in this formula. Remember that for all dice, the first term is 1 and the common difference is also 1. This means that our calculation now looks like 2 times 1 plus 1 times n minus 1 all over 2 times n. Simplifying where we can, we get to n plus 1 over 2 times n. The mean score of a die is equal to the sum of its sides divided by the number of sides. As there is a times n in this calculation already, this cancels out to give the mean as n plus 1 over 2, or half n plus half. This is what we found using statistical tools in the video The Fireball Fiasco. Let's see what happens when we replace the scores of 1 and 2 with the mean value of the dice, as shown in the bottom line here. We are essentially starting with the sum, removing 3 points, then adding double the mean. Through a little rearrangement, we can find that this sum is equal to the regular sum plus n minus 2. The mean value is thus the sum divided by the number of sides, n. With a little more algebraic juggling, we get to the following rule. The modified mean for a dice, when re-rolling 1s and 2s, is the normal mean, plus 1, minus 2 over n. This means for every dice there is a small bonus, a little less than 1, earned by re-rolling 1s and 2s. I have compiled a list of modified means in this table, showing the original mean, the new mean, and both the absolute and proportional increases in damage. The largest proportional increase is for a d4, a 20% increase in damage, but only half a point boost, from 2.5 to 3. A d12 would have a much larger absolute increase, an extra 5/6 damage, but this is a much smaller proportional damage, only a boost of 13%. 2d6 damage would get an increase of 4/3, about 19% more, showing that 2d6 gets a better boost than d12. In general, more smaller dice gets a better increase than fewer larger dice. This bonus, as I said, applies to all damage dice that are triggered with a hit on a melee attack, including smites, blade flourishes, and battlemaster maneuvers. There is no way that I can see to get sneak attack dice used here, as there are no two-handed melee weapons with the finesse feature. In addition, blade venoms have damage triggered by a failed save after an attack, so they would not benefit from great weapon fighting. As an extra bonus, as critical hits double the dice you are rolling for an attack, great weapon fighting would let you re-roll those dice as well. This makes great weapon fighting effective for crit fisher builds. Great weapon fighting is a very powerful feature if you build for it, finding ways to add as many dice as you can to your attack. Colby from D4 recently maligned it in his smiting Bladesinger build. Perhaps if he knew the mathematical power behind it, he might reconsider its effectiveness. My current Dungeons & Dragons character, named Riplikish, is built to test this idea, and when I reach the right level, I should have Battlemaster maneuvers, Bardic sword flourishes, and Eldritch Smite to add to my attack. I believe that I will, on a critical hit, be rolling 12d6 plus 10d8 damage, making great weapon fighting add a bonus 15.5 damage through its rerolls. If anyone can tell me where I got this name, Riplikish, from, you can earn some free nerd points. I'll give you a clue. I'm not a member of the LDS. Playing face to face, this reroll is easy to deal with. Pick out any 1s and 2s, then roll again. On a virtual tabletop, it is somewhat harder, but I did write a script for Roll20 that lets me do it. This is what it looks like. I'll break down how it works so you can use the same. This might look like a lot, but let's break down the sections and see what the final version looks like. When I press the attack button, this is what I see in the chat section. You can see that the damage value of 13 has come from rolling 2d6 plus 5, and the first roll of 2 has been re-rolled to give a value of 4. Let's break down the script. The first line tells the system what template to use. I'm using the default template. The next line is the displayed name of the attack. After that is a description box. Any text here will be displayed as flavor. The curly brackets or braces delineate a new section in the returned text box. Next comes a question. When the attack is made, should it be made with advantage? The three options, separated by a vertical line called a pipe symbol, are normal, disadvantage and advantage. Double square brackets are used to show values that are rolled. The CF less than 1 tells the system that a roll of 1 or less is a critical failure and should be highlighted in red. The CS more than 20 tells the system that rolls of 20 or higher are critical successes and should be highlighted in green. This can be changed if you crit on a lower number. The system then checks my character sheet and adds my proficiency bonus and charisma modifier, because I am a Hexblade Warlock. The system does this twice for disadvantage and tells the user to use the lower value, and twice for advantage and states the higher value should be used. In my own version of this, the system rolls 3 dice for advantage as I have Elven accuracy. Finally, the system rolls damage. I use the CS0CF0 to stop the system highlighting numbers for maximum and minimum values, as damage rolls don't care about this. The RO less than 2 tells the system to re-roll values equal to or less than 2, the part of great weapon fighting we care about. After this aside, we can review all of the fighting styles we have looked at. Defense is best for characters with a shield. Bonuses for armor class compound for each subsequent bonus. 2 weapon fighting is best if you are unlikely to get an extra attack from other sources. Great weapon fighting is a massive boost for damage if you build for it. Dueling gives less of a damage boost than great weapon fighting, but allows for a shield, so gives a better defense than great weapon fighting. I do not know if this was the game designer's intention, but these fighting styles reveal a lot about the different kinds of specialization in the game. All game designers and all players when making a character have to choose between specialization and generalization. Do you want your character to be a generalist who is okay at most things but does not excel anywhere, or a specialist who is weak at most things but much better at a few? Let's consider attacking. Every +1 to hit increases your chance of landing an attack, but not all +1s are equal. Changing your hit roll from 11 to 10 changes the expected hits from 10 to 11, a 10% increase. Changing the hit roll from 7 to 6 changes the number of expected hits from 14 to 15, an increase of only 7%. Each additional +1 to hit is less valuable than the previous. The counter to this is that each additional +1 to hit makes +1 to damage more valuable. This diagram is an abstraction of that principle. Giving a bonus to hit increases the likely number of hits across the probability space. This means that any bonus damage is multiplied across a larger base of hits. In the same way, any bonus damage makes a hit bonus more valuable, as likewise it is multiplied across more hits. This means that for offense, generalization is rewarded. You maximize your output by balancing bonuses between hit modifiers and damage boosts. This is the exact opposite to what we saw with armor class, where each successive bonus was more valuable than the previous, meaning that specialization is heavily rewarded. Did the game designers consider these mathematical relationships when they wrote the game, or did this interesting dilemma occur serendipitously? Who knows, but I think games would benefit if the designers understood how the maths works underneath their decisions. Game designers, consciously or unconsciously, push players towards generalization or specialization through the mechanics of gameplay, through how skills are checked and how teamwork is factored into the roles. Some games reward characters that are capable of a little bit of everything. In a game set in a harsh environment, it is important that all players have some proficiency in surviving in that environment. As combat is a common theme to almost all roleplay games, all characters must be useful in a fight, though that does not mean they have to be good at dealing damage. There are some circumstances where all members of a team must pass a check, such as sneaking past a guard. By focusing gameplay in these ways, you reward players who build generalist characters, but also end up with no experts in any fields. Mechanics where everyone passes or the whole team fails, and rewarding multiple successes or requiring redundancy encourages players to avoid specialisation. On the other hand, there are ways you can encourage specialist characters. If there is no benefit in multiple characters succeeding a check, it may be mathematically beneficial to have one adept character instead of multiple passing characters. If characters can assist others without needing an equal specialisation, then you only need one specialist character. Consider if, in your game, a nurse and a surgeon would get the same role as two surgeons working together. One could make convincing arguments either way. Finally, in character building, do you allow characters to become expert in something early on? There is an appeal in making a character who is proficient in their chosen field, as opposed to someone who is middling in everything. If your game allows this level of specialisation in character creation, will it reward or penalise it? As game designers, one should consider these key points. How do you create a range of difficulty for your players, and do those difficulties progress in a linear way? Does a character need to be an expert to have a reasonable chance of passing a harder test, forcing specialisation? How does your game mechanic reward teamwork? Does having two specialists provide a better return than one? Do you want to build expert characters from the beginning, or encourage players to make low-level generalists? Each of these will change the fundamentals of your game, and there is no best answer here, though I have played plenty of games that have gotten this wrong to an extent that the poor gameplay reduces the fun of the experience. And we do have to remind ourselves that all this mechanical discussion is solely in order to increase player fun. This concludes our lesson. Please place any questions or talking points in the comment section below. And as always, enjoy your next game, whatever it may be.